All right, welcome. This is lesson 3 of our Excel sessions. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at analyzing data using formulas. And so some of the concepts that we'll be developing here are using the quick analysis tool. This is only available for newer versions of Microsoft Office and Windows-based version. So if you're using a Mac computer to navigate through this, the quick analysis tool is not available, so I'll show you some workarounds. We're going to be building logical arguments using if and functions. We're going to be using a couple functions like round, count A to build statistical formulas, and we're also going to use some date functions. So the first thing we're going to do, I've included this file, ex3-1, and we're going to go ahead and do a save as, and we're going to call it 3-revenue. 3-revenue. And then you can go ahead and save it in the file that you normally, or the folder that you normally store the work that we do together. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the range B3 through E12. And then you'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner, the quick analysis tool opens up. I can select that, and I'm going to navigate to the totals section. And then you can see we've got some different quick analysis tools that run on the horizontal. And then if we navigate a little further over, they also run on the vertical as well. And so we want to go ahead and do the sum with the gold cells on the vertical. So we're going to click on that. Now, I'm going to undo this for a second. Now, if you don't have a version that has the quick analysis tool, you can select that same range and do auto. Oopsie, let's not do the auto sum that way. You're going to have to do it this way. So let's go auto sum, and then it's going to automatically calculate that row, so we can enter that formula and then copy this formula down. So again, if you don't have a version that has that quick analysis tool, that's a workaround for that. And that will work on the vertical. Now if you were going to make that calculation on the horizontal, it's much easier because you can select the range and then click on that auto sum, and it will just populate it down there. All right, but again, I'm going to come back, select my range, go to my quick analysis tool, totals, and then we're going to do the sum on the vertical. All right, now I'm going to click in cell H3, this annual, was that annual interest? Annual increase, okay, sorry, annual increase. And then this one, we are going to create a percentage. And so to do this, I'm going to type the equal sign to indicate that we're creating a formula, and then open parentheses. I'm going to click in cell F3, and then minus, click in cell G3, and then close my parentheses, and then the divide sign, so that little slash, and then I'm going to click in cell G3 again. So again, we're going to subtract G3 from F3 and divide it by F3 to get that annual increase from one year to the next. Let's go ahead and either click on your Enter key or this little check mark up in that formula bar, and it gives us that annual increase. So this is 0.754050034. And so this, if yours didn't come up with this many decimals, that's fine. We're going to change this to the percent style, and then we're going to increase the decimal 2 times. So right up here in the number group, increase decimal twice. So that increase is 75.41%. And then once we've got that, we can go ahead and fill that formula down. and then save our work. All right, so that's using those quick analysis tool as well as creating that percent increase formula. Right, now we're going to create a logical argument using the if function. So I'm going to come up to cell I3. Now the logical arguments are going to return different values in cells depending on if the conditions that we set up for our logical argument are true or false. And so we're going to use this if argument to say that if something is one thing or another, so if we look at these, we've got some negative numbers and some positive numbers. So we could say if the number is positive or greater than 0, then do this. If it's less than 0, if it's a negative number, do this. And so we're going to create that argument. So I'm going to click in cell I3, and then on my formula tab in my ribbon, I'm going to come over to the logical functions. So right over here, it's got a little question on it. I'm going to click on that little down pointing arrow, and I'm going to choose the if argument. So now this little function argument dialog box pops up. And so in this logical test, we are going to create this, our test. So I'm going to click in cell H3. And then I'm going to type the greater than sign. So this is shift and period. So if H3 is greater than or equal to, and then we're going to type in B13 or click in B13. And then I'm going to press my function 4 key. So not the F4 cell, but the function 4 key on my keyboard. And what that's going to do, it's going to create a absolute reference. So ultimately, if you can't get that function 4 key, this cell, the logical test should say H3 greater than equal to $B $13, or the absolute reference to cell B13. And you can type it in that way if you need to. All right. So again, the logical test that we're basing this argument on is if the annual increase is greater than or equal to our target increase, which is 15%. All right. So hope that makes sense. So if the annual increase is greater than or equal to our target increase, what do we do if it's true? Well, we'll click right here, the value if true. So if the value is true, we are going to type the word met. The value if is false, we're going to have it type the word missed. And so you can see our argument is met, and so it's telling us right here that it's met. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now I'm going to copy this formula down. And so you can see that anytime this is greater than our target 15%, it says met, and if it's not, it says missed. And again, that's just creating a very simple logical argument. So we can just take a quick glimpse at our year revenue to see if it was met or missed without looking at all the, looking at the numbers. Right now we're going to build a logical argument using AND. So this time we're going to go to the bonus section. So L3. So this time we'll do the same thing. We'll come up to this Formulas tab, Logical Arguments, and we're going to choose AND. All right, so now with an AND argument, you're setting up multiple conditions, and all conditions must be met in that instance. All right, so this one we're going to do with our logical 1 argument. We're going to click in cell J3. We're going to say if J3 is greater than or equal to, click in K3, and then we're going to hit tab. All right, so our first logical argument is if J3 is greater than or equal to K3. So if the filled positions are greater than or equal to the filled positions that we've posted or whatever. So that's our first argument. Our second argument is going to be if I3, so I3, and then we're going to say equals, and then in quotation marks, met. So quotation mark, capital M, capital E, capital T, and then quotation mark. So if the positions we filled is greater than or equal to the target positions, and we've met our annual revenue increase goal. All right, and then we're going to click OK. So here, this one tells us it's false. So if it was true, if we've met both of these conditions that are this says met and this one is greater than that, then we'll get true, like a true indication here. So you can see that we're only going to have a possible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trues, and already we've got one of them that's false. So let's go ahead and copy this formula down. All right, and I can see that there's only 2 trues in the bonus category. So only the Seattle and Toronto are going to receive the bonus. But again, so that if argument is telling us if a condition is met, we do one thing. If it's not met, we do the other thing. The AND argument states that all conditions have to be met in order for a true value to return. All right, so let's go ahead and save that progress. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to round a number using a function. And so that rounding the numbers is a little bit different than removing decimals. Excuse me. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select cell B15. All right, so the average year revenue. I'm going to come up to my Home tab, my Auto Sum button, and I'm going to click Average. So I'm going to select an average. Now I want to select the range F3 through F12. I don't want to include this target increase. So I'm just going to click on F3, drag through F12, and then release. So I've got equals average B3 through B12. And I'm going to click Enter. And there we've got 25,610. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back on this cell, and then up in my formula bar to the immediate right of the equal sign, I'm going to type RO. Now when I do that, you can see it gives me functions because it knows that I want to create a function in here. I'm going to double click on the word round. So double click. And so when I do that, it gives me this nested formula within this. So I'm telling it what I want to do is I want to round the number that is the average of B3 through B12. And now I need to tell it how I want to round it. So you can either click at the end of this formula, or you can hit your end key, and it will go to the end of that formula. Either way works. Then I'm going to type comma 0 and then close the parentheses. And again, so I'm going to do the average of B3 through B12, and then I'm going to round it to the 0 decimal places. So that comma 0 indicates how many decimal places. If we wanted it to go to 4 decimal places, we would say comma 4. If we wanted to go to 1, it would say comma 1, and so on. So after I've got that, I can go ahead and enter. And then now you can see it's rounded to the next number up. And if the decimal, I think the decimal was 0.9, if the decimal was 0.4, it would round it down. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to save our progress. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to build a statistical formula using the COUNTA function. And the COUNTA function is going to tally the number of cells in a specific range that contain data. And so if a cell doesn't contain data, it'll return a 0 value. But if it does contain data, you'll get a count. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our formula bar, and we are going to go to our formula tab, and then we're going to go to our more functions right over here, and we're going to choose a statistical function. All right, so what we're going to first do is make sure that we're in cell B14. All right, and again, more functions, statistical, and this one we're going to do, like I said, a COUNTA. They're going to be alphabetical, so there's a count and a COUNTA. We're going to do the COUNTA. All right, and now we're going to tell what the argument is. And so our count is going to be the range A3 through A12. So instead of B3 through B13, we're going to select A3 through A12. And then we're going to just say OK, because you can see it's counted 10 cells with data in it. And there's our number of offices, 10. All right, and again, if we did a count, it will count all cells in a range. A COUNTA counts all cells with data. All right, so now we're gonna go with our insertion point. Oops, sorry. We're going to select the range H3 through H12. And then I'm going to go to my Home tab, and I'm going to format this range. So I'm going to click on Format right over here, and then Format Cells down at the bottom. Now our Format Cells dialog box will open up. I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to select a custom formatting. So normally we use these like currency, accounting, date styles. Now we're going to do a custom formatting, because we want to customize how these cells will present. And so you'll notice that right over here we've got all these different custom formatting, and it looks a little bit weird, but you can see this £, comma, pound, 0.00. So that's just saying that we're going to format a number with the 1000 separator and 2 decimal places. And if that little semicolon indicates that if the number is negative, the brackets indicate that it's going to be this number is going to be red, and it's going to be formatted the same way. And you can see this one, we're going to format it with a $sign. This one's, the negative numbers are going to be red and a $sign, and they'll also be in parentheses. So there's a couple, so this, it looks a little complicated, but once you understand how to do it, it's a lot easier. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and click on the %. Where did it go? Oh, so right over here. So it's okay, we're just going to, in this type box. So we're going to click on right after the %. So again, we're formatting this as a % with 2 decimal places. Then we're going to hit our semicolon key to indicate that now we want to format negative numbers differently. And we're going to do our straight bracket. So that's going to be the key to the immediate right of the letter P. We're going to type red and then close that bracket. And that's the key to the immediate right of the key that we just pushed. So these are going to be the two keys to the right of the letter P on our keyboard. So open bracket, type the word red, close the bracket, and then we're going to type parentheses 0.00% and close the parentheses. All right, and again, so we've already determined that the formatting for these numbers are going to be percent with 2 decimals. Now we just added that semicolon at the end of that formatting to indicate that we want to format negative numbers differently. And the negative numbers are going to be in red color, and they're going to be formatted as a percent with 2 decimals and inside a parentheses. So the negative numbers are going to be in red and in parentheses. So let's click OK, and then you'll notice that when we did that, oopsie, let me go back to my formula. I put a 5 instead of a, let me look at that again. What did I do up there? There. All right, now let me try it. There we go. All right. So again, negative numbers are formatted in red with inside a parentheses. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the range B3 through G12. So B3 through G12. And I'm going to hold Control because I'm going to select the non-adjacent range, and then I'm going to select B15, that average year revenue. And then with that non-adjacent range selected, I'm just going to come up here to my number launcher and click on the accounting style. And then I'm going to decrease the decimal to 0. I'm just going to click decrease decimal once, twice. And then I can deselect that range. All right, so we can go ahead and save that progress. Now we're going to insert a date function into this. So in cell A2, right up here, we're going to create a function that will give us the date. So I'm going to go back to my Formula tab, and then I'm going to go to my Date and Time options. And then I'm going to click on Today. So click Today, and it's going to say Today, and right here it will say formula result is volatile because it's going to change as the day is. So we're going to say OK, and then you'll notice that it puts the date right up there. All right. Now I'm going to, all right, and again, so that puts today's date. So now I'm going to hit the delete key to undo that. And this time I'm going to use a different one. So I'm going to go back up to those date and time again. And this time I'm going to hit date. All right, so when I do date, it's going to open up a function argument dialog box. And this one will allow me to return a specific date. So I'm going to type in 2021 and then tab. In the month, I'm going to type 2 and then tab, the day 24. So February 24th, 2021. And then you can see it returns a format or formula right down here. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And then it puts the specific date in there. And now I'm going to click on my Home tab because I'm going to format this cell with a style. And I'm going to go ahead and click on my More options. And I'm going to format that cell with a style 20% accent 1. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now what else I'm going to do is I'm going to select this row 2. And you can see we've got a lot of text in here that we really can't see what it all is. And I'm going to come up into my Home tab, Alignment Group, and I'm going to click on Wrap Text. And so when I do that, it's going to wrap the text within those cells. And then I'm going to click Center, Align, so it will center them as well. And then I'm going to select cell B2 through L2, and I'm going to give this a style that is going to be the heading 2 style. All right, and then I'm going to save our progress. All right, and to format this a little bit more, I'm going to select my range A1 through L1. I'm going to merge and center that text, and then I'm also going to apply the heading 1 style, or let's do the title styles for this one. And then another formatting, we're going to select the target increase, so A13 through B14, the target increase and the number of offices. And for those two, we're also going to apply the style, and we're going to use the heading 3 style. All right. And so we've got this pretty much taken care of. But now you'll notice we've also got one more tab down here. So I'm going to deselect that range. I'm going to click on that Formula and Documentation tab. And I'm going to click on my Symbols option. And that's going to be Insert. And then the symbols over there. And then we're going to look at the equation. So in the Symbols group, we're going to check the equations. And in this one, I'm going to click on the fraction structure. So let's go through here. Where is it? Where did it go? Oh, you know what? I'm going to click on, that's why. I'm going to click on the equation, insert equation, because I knew I wanted to get to this contextual tab. And again, I'm going to undo that for a second. All right. And then again, oopsie, let me undo that. Okay. And again, so what I did is on my insert tab, instead of inserting an equation, a specific equation, I just clicked this little pi symbol to insert an equation. And then when I do that, it opens up an equation contextual tab. And here's where I want to go ahead and I want to do the fraction option. So I'm going to click on the fraction button in the structures group right here. And I'm going to choose the stacked fraction option. So this is the stacked fraction, this top one. I'm going to click on that. And then you can see it brings in this little fraction that I can type into. So I'm going to click on this upper box right there. So I've got it selected. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit so you can see it any better. So click on that top box. And then in here, I'm going to type open parentheses and then year revenue minus previous revenue or previous year revenue, and then close the parentheses. And then I'm going to click on the lower box and then type previous year revenue. All right, and then I'm going to get the four-way pointing arrow over this, and I'm just going to drag it up. Right, so it is underneath this this column in annual increase right over here. So I'm just going to drop it right there. All right, again, so these are the formula documentations. All right, so I'm going to deselect that. I'm going to go ahead and save that work. And then finally, we are going to control our worksheet calculations. So I'm going to click on the NA revenue tab again, and then on the file tab, I'm going to go to my options. So it's right over here on this side menu. So options right down here. There we go. All right, so click on options. And then here I'm going to click on formulas. All right, and again, so we're going to control these calculations. So under the calculation options, I'm going to go ahead, and so you can see calculation options right here. I'm going to click in the manual option button. So manual. And then this one says recalculate workbook before saving. So before saving, it will redo the calculations. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. All right. So now I'm going to click on cell B13. And then, oopsie. Oh no, B3, sorry, B3. B3, I'm going to click on cell B3, and I'm going to change that value to 34,305. So 34305. And then I'm going to click on that Enter key. All right. And then I'm going to click on my Formula tab. And then I'm going to click on the Calculate Sheet button. And that's right over here in the calculations. So I'm going to click on Calculate Sheet. And then click on cell A1. And then I'm going to click Save. All right, and then you'll notice that it changed, it recalculated it before it saved it. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my Calculate Options right over here and click on Automatic. And that's how it normally does. So to change it back from the manual to the automatic. All right, and then I can go ahead and save the changes, and then that project is complete.